Greetings, greetings, greetings. Welcome to another episode of the Alkebulan Awakening series in conjunction with Kumbukeni. My name is the son of the soil, Oladele Dosumu. What we do on this platform is basically to decolonize our minds and awaken our consciousness. For those who are waking, for those who are Europeanized, and we're here to decolonize your minds, bring it back to who we're supposed to be. Wendigo.
Habari gani, karibuni, asanteni. Thank you all for joining us today. The name is Nduku. I am the host on Kumbukeni, an African warrior woman fighting on all fronts for my people, for our culture, for our motherland. Asante.
Thank you. Okay, Francisca, Mandeya, I'll let you introduce yourself to our global audience, please.
Woroi, makadini, salibonani, linjani, dimacheroni, mafachini, muriwa, bihere. Woroi, makadini, salibonani, linjani, dimacheroni, mafachini, muriwa, bihere. Bawoni, dumelang, muriwino, salong, dumelang, molweni, muriwanji, shalom, namaste, konnichiwa, hola, alo, ciao. Boroi, makadini, saliwonani, linjani, imacherani, mawatini, muriwo, bihere. Hola, alo, habari, ¿cómo estás? Ni hao, jambo, shalom, namaste, konnichiwa, boroi, makadini, salibonani, linjani, dimacherani, mafachini, muriwo, bihere. So, I just greeted you using my mbira, a traditional African spiritual instrument that our ancestors used to transcend before the colonizers demonized it and deemed it evil.
I need you to teach me, my sister. I want to be able to play that. That was beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That was beautiful. Yeah, so can you just introduce yourself, please? Yeah.
In many languages.
Yeah.
Yes, I will introduce myself. I am Francisca Ndaiziwe Mandeya. My second name is loaded with my mother's story. Ndaiziwe, had I known, it's a question mark to society because she had given birth to a third girl in succession. Our names carry stories.
Yeah.
My mother was expressing her pain for failing to produce an heir. My name is not registered on my government ID. What is on my government ID is Francisca, a Catholic name, a name that I got when I was 1 month old, as per requirement. I was born in 1970 in violent colonial Rhodesia. I am a witness of colonial brutality as I watched my parents, my mother and my father, getting beaten, humiliated, incarcerated, together with my baby sister, Juliet. White people were going after our land, after our resources. They put themselves at the top of the race ladder, followed by Asians, followed by coloreds, mixed race, and Africans. My people, Zimbabweans, were teetering at the bottom rung of the ladder. So I was born into this context of you are not enough as a girl child. You are not enough as an African child. You do not deserve to partake in the economy, or your parents do not deserve to own anything. So today I speak about roots to resilience, reviving Ubuntu to heal trauma. What this means to me, reviving something means it was killed. So the question becomes, who killed it? Who killed Ubuntu? It was the colonizer and the missionary. How did they kill it? I already shared that Maimbira was demonized as evil by the colonizers. So anything that we used to connect with our maker, Musikabana, was deemed evil, demonized. How else did they kill Ubuntu? By enforcing religion, getting the savage out of the African, the pagan out of the African, and civilizing them with Christianity. How else did they kill Ubuntu? Through education, through conversion. And schools and churches were the tools that were used to educate and to convert Africans to civilization. I was talking to my husband, Sotemba, and he said in primary school, they were given a necklace with bones to punish them because they had spoken Shona, their mother tongue, in school. In my secondary school at St. David's Bonda in Zimbabwe, we had a card system. If you spoke Shona, the card went around. If you had it by the end of the day, you would be punished for speaking your mother tongue. This is how our Africanness was killed, how Ubuntu was killed. Because Ubuntu is a way of life. It's our way of being, of transcending, our way of relating with each other, our economy of sharing, our way of governing, our way of making decisions, our way of learning. All that was killed. There came a system, capitalism, with colonizers and missionaries, a system that puts money before human life. And Ubuntu puts human life before all else. So I just wanted to explain how Ubuntu was killed and now why we need to revive it. So there was cultural genocide. There was the culture of violence that we were taught by the colonizers and the missionaries under the guise of civilization. And so today, when I speak about roots of resilience and reviving Ubuntu to heal trauma, what else comes to my mind is how I watched my parents bouncing back from being beaten, humiliated, displaced, incarcerated, being hunted by the colonizer. As rural business people, they were accused of supplying the freedom fighters with food and knowing where their bases were. So they were wanted so that they would give the British soldiers information to go and butcher our own who were fighting for their land. What did I observe in my late parents that I want to bring to today as resilience? I watched them bounce back from being stripped of their wealth where they were situated in the rural area of Wedza to opening a shop in the central business district of Marondera. Resilience. In spite of what was going on with them, they opened a grocery store, vegetable store in the central business district of Marondera. They uprooted us from school and put us in a farm school. That's the best they could do. When the war was over, they went back home to re-establish their business. What I witnessed is my parents huddling together, deciding how much are we going to charge the community for these commodities and these services. And my mother would always say to my father, let us make sure that the community is left with something. Business with kindness. Business with the community at heart. Of giving
Your
day when I go back home.
Hold on real quick, my sister. Oladile, is it just me or is the audio a little messed up? You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you. All right, go on.
Okay. I have to recollect my thoughts now. So I was talking about resilience, where I get it from personally. And as I speak about my own experience, I invite everybody that's listening to figure out where they can go back and get their resilience from, because it is there. Like the Sankofa bird, we go back in history to go and collect the wisdom from our parents, our grandparents, and our ancestors. I play the mbira to revive my culture. I play the mbira even though it was demonized, because it's a life giver to me. And it has been quite a journey to try and reconcile my Christian and my African identity and still remain grounded. It's very hard to straddle between two religions. This was my parents' life. How did they do it? I wonder. Because personally, when I try to understand that Mbira is evil, but Mbira heals me, Christianity is evil in some ways, but it raised me and gave me the values that I have. How do I reconcile that? So as I think about spirituality, about resilience, about reviving Ubuntu, these are the questions that I have. And my sharing is that I have been reclaiming my culture in spite of what was said. I have been undoing the mind control that came with religion. I asked the question, were our ancestors evil before the colonizers came? And as I was writing my book, Searching for Racial Equality, I asked God, the Creator, to give me questions, because mentally I was not okay, trying to just figure out who am I and what am I about? And so I thank God, because in that questioning came an answer from the internet. I stumbled upon the letter from King Leopold. And that letter, it made me understand the question that I always had about Christianity, whether it was really a superior religion to ours, and whether African religion was really evil. And so that letter, I don't know whether I should read a bit of it, but I have a whole chapter 2, that says how religion is used to opiate Africans.
You can read the letter if you'd like to. And
evangelize the niggers. Excuse my French. That's what he said. Evangelize.
You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome, sis.
Evangelize the niggers so that they stay forever in submission to the white colonialists, so they never revolt against the restraints they are undergoing. Recite every day, happy are those who are weeping because the kingdom of God is for them. King Leopold II, 1883. Were our ancestors evil before the colonizer came? That's the question that I asked, right? And I go on to share the rest of the letter, or at least part of it. Dear reverends, fathers, and compatriots, the task that you have been given to fulfill is very delicate and requires much tact. You will go certainly to evangelize, but your evangelization must inspire above all Belgian interests. Your principal objective in our mission in the Congo is never to teach the niggers to know God. This they already know. They speak and submit to a Mungu, one Nzambi, one Nzakomba, and what else? I don't know. They know that to kill, to sleep with someone else's wife, to lie, and to insult is bad. Have courage to admit it. You are not going to teach them what they know already. Your essential role is to facilitate the task of administrators and industrials, which means you will go to interpret the gospel in the way it will be best to protect your interests in that part of the world. For these things, you have to keep watch on disinteresting our savages from the richness that is plenty in their underground. To avoid that, they get interested in it and make you murderous competition and dream one day to overthrow you. Your knowledge of the gospel will allow you to find tax ordering and encouraging your followers to love poverty. Like happier are the poor because they will inherit the heaven. And it's very difficult for the rich to enter the kingdom of God. You have to detach from them and make them disrespect everything, which gives courage to affront us. I make reference to their mystic system and their war fetish, warfare protection, which they pretend not to want to abandon. And you must do everything in your power to make it disappear. I want to end here. The rest of the letter is in the book. And so this is how Christianity was introduced. And these are the people that demonized our way of being, our African spirituality. Our African spirituality taught us that we have to have harmony with ourselves. We have to have harmony with others. We have to have harmony with nurture. We have to have harmony with our creator. In my language, our creator is Musikabano. In other languages, I think we had Mungu, Nzambi, Nzangomba. In your languages?
Ngai.
Ngai. Mm-hmm. Oladele, the creator in your language?
You muted, my brother, for whatever reason.
It's Olodumare.
Olodumare, yeah. Or Oloruma.
Olodumare.
Yeah. So we knew God already. Mm-hmm. So our spirituality is not just about the individual. It's a way of life. It is not a text that is written somewhere, but it's a way of life. It decides how we govern. It decides how we conduct our relationships. It's integrated in our daily life. For me, that is what I understand by African spirituality. Just being ourselves. So it was a way of being, not a text to be written or to be read somewhere. So as I try and do justice to the topic, reviving Ubuntu to heal trauma, I want to go back to the way I converted all that trauma that I shared to you, with you. As a girl child, as an African, I decided to use storytelling, which is part of our culture. Storytelling, I wrote books, Mother Behold Thy Son, and Searching for Racial Equality, so that I would move from that pain and trauma and create gifts and opportunities from it. By telling my story, I was able to process my thinking, my feelings, and let out all the negativity. And then use these books and these resources to inspire other people. How do you move from a victim mindset? How do you heal yourself as an African? I know we have different experiences. To the audience, your story and mine may not exactly be the same, but they may be connected. Mm-hmm. My message to you is you can heal the pain and trauma. You can convert it into gifts and opportunities. But what it takes is that harmony with self that our African values teach us, is to do the inner work. Today, that may look different. We live in a world where we are blending science and religion, and things are coming together. So personally, doing the inner work has helped me to ask the questions, who am I? I have also gone back in one of my coaching programs. I talk about, it's called CALL. CALL stands for Care, Awareness, Love, and Leadership. And so C is for self-care, but I want to focus on the awareness, who am I? So in the self-awareness module, we talk about who am I? And we go back to our ancestry. I know that a lot of Africans have been told that our ancestors are responsible for all our problems. I do not agree. When I teach the self-awareness module, we are going back 3 generations. Know who your parents are, know who your grandparents are, and your great-grandparents, if possible. That would make it 4 generations, but know who you are, 1 generation, your parents, your grandparents, that's 3 generations. I know there are gaps, and I have gaps because I don't know my grandparents from my maternal side, but we heal those parts that we don't know. Going back to the genogram, to the detailed family tree, allows us to go and access the wisdom from the past. What are the myths in the family? What are the legends? I'll tell you mine. There's the legend of Anyemba, the warrior, the zebra, the manjenjenje, who fought alongside men. Whenever I get confronted with a situation, I tell people, I am manjenjenje, the zebra. I am Anyemba, because she belongs to my lineage. She was a woman who was powerful. Every time someone tries to bring me down, I go and get the resilience from Anyemba, the legend. What are the legends in your family where you can go and collect that resilience and that wisdom? What are the myths that are told about people from your mother's side and your father's side that would give you resilience and healing? They did it before. So going back to the ancestry to find out the intergenerational emotional systems. Is there alcoholism? Is there mental health issues? Personally, yes, to me. And so when I know the patterns in my family, when I map it out and know my uncle died by suicide, this is true. My father had suicide ideation, this is true. I had suicide ideation, this is true. In 2014, I wanted to die by suicide. I could not handle the shame, the embarrassment of a decision I made as a woman that was not honoring me or my children. And so I got depressed acutely. What did I do? I went for counseling. We must seek professional help. I got the support of my family. And the third thing that I did was to lean on my culture. In a distance of 1 kilometer, I composed a song, Mbira Zangu, and played my mbira. That song saved my life. It made me feel grounded in who I am. I never wanted to kill myself again. Up to today, it's 10 years now, I have not thought of it. And I know it came from my mbira. Give me my mbira so that I'll be happy. Give me my mbira. When I'm sad, I play it. When I'm happy, I play it. When I'm angry, I play it. When I'm I'm trying to translate from Shona to English. So anyway, when I'm not feeling good, I play it. Why? Because it gives me peace. It grounds me. I was not the only person. I'm not the only person who has benefited from this song. A mother who was grieving her son saw me playing on Facebook, Freedom Fridays. I used to play every Friday. And she said to me, can I have that thing that you play? And I said, by all means, go and buy from my teacher in Zimbabwe. She went to buy. Can you teach me that song, Mbira Zangu? And I said, yes, I will. And she was able to process her grief. She was able to sleep at night after playing mbira. Our own African instrument, tools, healing, trauma. She had gone to counseling. She had tried everything. Nothing was working. She was giving up. Yesterday, she was giving me feedback. Thank you, Mama, for saving my life. I said, no, you were ready. I'll take the credit that, yes, I gave you tools, but it was up to you. You took up the tools and you were ready. You were teachable and coachable. So as I speak about healing trauma, these are some of the things: playing my mbira, leaning into our culture, telling our stories, writing the books, doing the inner work, finding harmony within self. But it's not enough. We find harmony with others as Africans. So I coach in groups where no one gets left behind. I have not won if you have not won. So in the group, we go together. We are patient with each other. We practice love as Ubuntu teaches us. We win as a collective. So it doesn't matter whether the other person is dragging or she's making us angry. We actually learn to carry them with us until we get to the finish line. So we heal together. And some of these things that we are told about mindfulness, Africans already knew it. We connect with nature. Our totems are to do with either vegetation or mountains and rivers and animals. They already knew these things. But we were not good at labeling them and packaging them. We just used our oral traditions to pass things and learning by observation. But today I am saying we already have this wisdom. Our ancestors had this wisdom. We have to remember who we are. I can't claim to be a culture guru. The mbira that I play is very basic, but I've learned to express myself and to teach other people with confidence. I don't have to be an expert. I cannot remember everything that our ancestors did, but the little that I know, I feel connected. At 37, I don't even know how I did it, but I just felt like bringing mbira into the home. 3 sets. I didn't intend to play. I just wanted to display them so that I would feel connected to my culture. But see what I'm doing now. I play. People say I'm healing. And sometimes the call is not that obvious, but we are being called, my African people, by our ancestors.
Yep.
Are we listening? We are healers, even though we are wounded. We are capable of healing ourselves as a collective, as individuals. We know the difference between evil and good. Those people in that letter knew that we knew what is good and what is bad. There are aspects of our African culture that needed to be jettisoned, and we are aware of that. Just as with any other culture or spirituality, there are aspects of theirs that needs also to be jettisoned. In terms of spirituality, I wanted to say, it doesn't matter what a person believes in my book. Whether you're Christian, whether you're Islam, whether you're African, whether you're Hindu or Buddha, whatever the religions of this world, there's one thing that I've been taught that should guide our spirituality, and that is unconditional love. And that is what Ubuntu is all about. My humanity is tied to yours. The moment we recognize that and we love the other as we love ourselves, healing begins. The moment we commune based on love, healing begins. The moment we share our voices, we share our stories, storytelling, healing begins. I do not know whether I've done justice to the topic.
Yeah, you have.
Have you?
You have.
Have you, my sister? Oladele, and at the end, we're going to ask our sister to play Mbira Zangu before, as we close, as we wrap up.
Absolutely.
Yes, please. Yes.
Yes, sis, you've done justice. It's like I'm listening, like you're taking me into my spiritual inner being as you were talking. So yeah,
Yes.
you know, you hit my soul. And
thank you.
For those who are listening, and this is basically why we do what we do, because we've been taken away so far away. Like my sister said, you can say, okay, you're Christian, you're Muslim, whatever, but those things are not us. Our spirituality is in us. It's basically African. And this is basically this is why we're trying to bring these programs to decolonize our minds for us to get back to who we should be. You know, don't look for God in things that don't. There's no what's the word? There's no what's the word I'm looking for?
Connection.
There's no lineage is what I'm trying to look at. Yeah, there's no lineage in the kind of gods you're looking at. Your God has your own lineage. It's basically tied to you. It's your ancestors. This is what we've lost. And then, like my sister said, and then we you know, the trauma that this so-called religions bring to us. Basically, you know, that's what you know. Thank for that topic. Anyway, my first question I'm going to ask you is, based on everything you said, and I'm sure there's a lot of people listening, and people are going to be listening, thinking, okay, you know, they say Christ is a kind of salvation. You know, it brings healing and all that kind of stuff. You've talked completely against it. For those who still think Christianity or Islam is the way, as an African, please speak to that.
So I already told you that I was Christianed at 1 month old as a Catholic. And so my whole life until maybe 2 years ago, That was my life. And the idea of Christ is something that was introduced for 50, how many years? Let's just say 52 years to me. And so I tread carefully on it to accommodate those that still find salvation and their spirituality is hinged on that. I am in a questioning period. I am in a reconciliation period. And what I can safely tell you that I wrote in my book is I do not subscribe to the blue-eyed white Jesus. That I will categorically state that I do not subscribe to Christ who is white and blue-eyed. So the idea of Christ, I have not discarded. I straddle between two religions, and I dance with my Africanness and my Christianity in search for the truth. But the truth for me, the more I search, the more I am inclined to leaning on my culture. That's how I want to respond to that.
Okay.
Yes.
I think you're being politically correct there. So
I'm about to come in and change that. I'm about to hold on.
There.
This is why we are here. Oladele, this is why we are here. To hold our sisters and brothers who want to give grace gently and tell them you need to be a warrior. Hold on.
Yes. Yes.
And this is what I'm going to say, my sister. You find a home in Christianity because they stole from our African spirituality to create Christianity. So what you're identifying with in Christianity is your African spirituality. And the best way I can reach someone like you to say, abandon the one so that you can fully immerse yourself in the other, because the one contradicts the other, literally, is your umbira, right? Christianity says your umbira is bad. Just that fact by itself, I think, is a strong reality to say, to hell with it. I am focusing. And also the whole idea of you're serving two masters. Right? So if I'm going to reconnect with my ancestors, I cannot also embrace the thing that killed my ancestors because it goes against the well-being of my community.
Okay, so let me tell you how as I was reflecting, and it's an ongoing journey, and I always like
exactly
respecting like where people are. Let me tell you where I am. I do not believe in the blue-eyed white poster boy of Western religion who, with the help of hegemonic forces, has masqueraded as Jesus Christ. That deity advances white superiority and aids in perpetuating racial inequality. Those forces refuse to acknowledge that Jesus was bronze in complexion. Bronze in complexion. We have been manipulated, told to believe everything preached is gospel truth. We fail to recognize that the word of God is abused to advance the agenda of human beings. We tend to trust those who purport to help us, and we end up being taken advantage of because we never question why people want to help us, whether as individuals, wealthy individuals, families, and communities, even countries. So you see where my reflection was going, that that's my standpoint when it comes to Christ. The texts clearly say he was bronze in complexion, if we want to go by those texts and respect those that go by that religion. For me, I saw an intersection of those two. I have direct access to God because God is genderless, God is tribeless, God is raceless. And so whatever I do, if I play my mbira and it takes me to God, so be it. When I was in church as a singer, I used to feel transported to a realm that went beyond the priest that was standing before me. And I would go to the priest and challenge him. But how come women don't lead in this church? Because I feel led. I feel like I can take this on. So don't underestimate this warrior. It's just that the path that she's taking is a bit different, but I am totally at peace with my Mbira. And any Christian who negates this, we part ways. Because this is God speaking to us. Or at least for me, this was my ancestors speaking to me and showing me another way of knowing God, which I did not grow up knowing. But on my own at 37, I picked this thing up. Why? I feel like my ancestors were calling me to know the full truth.
Oh, my sister. All right, let me get to my question. I honor your journey.
Yes.
And like you said, it is a journey, right? I too was raised Catholic. And there are many struggles. I remember before I ask my question, my first questioning of Catholicism was when we started in high school. I was in boarding school when we started hearing priests are having babies with the high school girls. Priests are having babies with the nuns. That's when I started asking. The same priest who preaches celibacy and connecting to God and is doing this on the side, and then on Sunday he's gonna come and tell me how to be this, that. That's when I started questioning. And this idea also of, in Catholicism, you need the priest as a mediator between you and God, confession, right? That's another thing that I started questioning at an early age. Why do I need to go through a man who commits sin just like me to get to God when I can directly speak to God, right? But here goes my question. We have been taught, or a lot of us are learning the positive, I'll give it that name now, positive. Both sides are positive, I believe, but we are now looking at it from a lens of the socialization that we've gone through westernization. The positive side of Ubuntu, which is love your brother as you love thyself, I guess, what you expect to be done to you, do unto others, your brother's well-being is your well-being, all of that. I am because you are. But there's a side of Ubuntu that we are not embracing. And I think as we return to our roots, as we revive Ubuntu, it is also important that we understand Ubuntu from a context of we were attacked and detached from our culture because we did not see the wholeness of Ubuntu, because we did not understand that when faced by violence, we must meet it where it comes to us. What I'm trying to say is, I read this the other day. I'm trying to put together a piece on Ubuntu. So I'm just going to quickly read the paragraph. Ubuntu teaches that safeguarding the community is a collective duty, which includes ensuring that each person has the support and security they need to thrive. This principle instills a sense of vigilance and loyalty, encouraging individuals to stand together against forces that could harm the community or disrupt its harmony. When external threats arise, whether in the form of oppression, exploitation, cultural erasure, or destabilizing influences, Ubuntu calls for collective action to defend the community's values, resources, and way of life. This commitment to protection is not driven by aggression, but by the necessity of preserving the shared welfare, dignity, and autonomy of the group. Please say something about this.
I completely, fully subscribe to that. And I would fight. And my parents fought. And our armed forces in Zimbabwe fought for those ideals. What breaks my heart is that some of us go in there half-hearted, or along the way, they lose the ethos of Ubuntu and are focused on self-interest. During slavery, there were people that sold their brothers and sisters, right? They departed from Ubuntu. What you said, they did not follow because there was something in it for them, whether it was power, whether it was money. So to defend who we are, I completely agree with you. My heartbreak, even for those that fought using those values of Ubuntu as the excuse for collectively fighting for justice, have also abandoned it. Because when you look at Africa, how many leaders are using the values of Ubuntu? How many people are living in poverty? How much inequality is there in South Africa, where Ubuntu is purportedly supposed to have started from, which I dispute anyway. Ubuntu is a Bantu thing from all Bantu people. But how much Ubuntu is in South Africa? So for me, yes, we ought to fight, but we ought to do the inner work, finding harmony within ourselves as Africans. Do we have the heart to actually follow through with the promises, with that protection that we are supposed to give each other, with the ideals of the collective? Or some of us allow themselves to sell their souls to the devil, if I may say that, to money? Because Ubuntu and the systems that are prevailing are the exact opposite. I don't know if in skirting around I have answered your question, Duko.
You truly have.
Thank you.
I am appreciating you. It's interesting because we are a spiritual people, and I think as we return and as we have experiences, we need to start sharing them so that we do not shy away from them. I, even in this medium of you being physically away from, I'm feeling very connected to you right now, a great pull towards you. And I like the way you're approaching things, being someone, like you just said, 2 years ago, and I believed you mentioned your age was close to 40 years. So that's a long journey, being away from who you are and then starting to return. And it's going to take a while, but and maybe you can talk about this because it was my experience. When you're first hit with the realization that what you've believed in for years is false, that can do a number on you. Mentally, physically, spiritually, it does a number on you. And instead, for us, our people, instead of fighting it, sit in it. So my sister, speak to that, the process of coming from that to where you are now. Sorry, Oladile.
Yeah, that's fine. That helps a lot. Yeah.
Gosh, I'm actually tearing up because it feels like a divorce. It feels like a betrayal, because it's everything you know. It's everything that makes you who you are. You are kind, you are generous, you try to be purposeful, you serve in the church. I preached 3 times before the congregation. I sing. When I sing in church, I love it. People love it. They still meet me in the supermarket and say, "Come back." And I smile at them, knowing at least I won't. Because when the truth hit me, and my son asked me, "Mom, why has your Pope not apologized to indigenous people for what they did?" It hit me so hard. This is a son I raised in the Christian faith. And he came for me, asking me, "Mom, why has your Pope not apologized to indigenous people?" Those atrocities that happen to indigenous people. I live on the land of Inuit in Arctic Canada. It was 1,000 plus bodies that were found buried. People that were stripped of their language and their food and got sick and sexually assaulted. Some never made it home and they were buried, never to be found again. If ever I had thoughts before, for me, that was the point of departure. I knew, because my brother, forgive me for saying this on air, my brother, he told me that there was a priest in our high school in St. Ignatius that was smacking the bums of boys. And I just knew that it went beyond that. And I wondered, in Africa, when are people going to talk about sexual assault of Africans? Because now with indigenous people in Canada, they started talking about it. When will Africa talk about the atrocities, the sexual assault on boys, on girls by people who are supposed to be the example of spirituality? All those feelings were inside me. I was writing about it. People hate you for saying your truth. Because while you're trying to process, for some of us, we're extroverts, we put it out there, and then people come back to your inbox to say, why are you talking about it? You're rattling the boat, or you're rocking the boat. So the journey is mentally disturbing. It's a mental health issue. And I thank God because the work that I started doing for myself from 2019 as a mental fitness trainer was to be aware of what sabotages my peace, my relationships, my well-being. This is neuroscience, positive intelligence. So I trained as a coach, and I was lucky to be in a cohort with fellow coaches where we were taught about the system. That you can be in your victim mindset, avoiding mindset, hypervigilance, because I was hypervigilant. I was always like, who's going to get me, coming from Zimbabwe, where I had been hunted by the CIO because of my activism. I was threatened with death. I will say this because it's true. And so when you come from a culture where people have been hunting for you, you are hypervigilant. So I would think people are getting into my room, but I'm in Canada. Who wants to get into my room? But that's the post-traumatic stress disorder. Yeah. So I learned to process all that while I was here in Canada. I learned to question my religion and not to be apologetic, because it, like, sitting with the emotions, they were so true. And I have my sister here in Canada, Tina. She used to say, let's not go there. And I wrote it in the book to say, my sister Tina used to say, don't go there. Why? Because it kind of takes the base of who you are. So it's like you're not grounded. It has just been taken away from you. So what do you stand on? So the journey is not easy, and it's scary. Even today, I don't have people that like me because of my mbira. I don't have people that like me because I'll speak about the priests that were smacking our brothers' bums, and they don't want to hear it because the church is supposed to be good. Unfortunately, I am not going to be that person that allows injustice to fester or sweeps things under the carpet. I am past that. Yeah. God will judge me for not being in my truth. And I will not be happy personally for not being in my truth. I don't know if I've done justice to the question.
Yeah, you have. Ndeko, you want to follow up with that, or should I ask?
I was going to say, Oladile, because the opportunity was opened to speak on this, and we will speak on this. It's interesting because just yesterday I was speaking to a friend. The place where I used to work before this, some of the cases we worked on was just that, missionaries who went to Africa and abused African children. And I said, they don't do that to their children back in they take a flight and go to Africa for missionary journeys or whatever missions that they go to, and they abuse our children.
They still do that today in terms of tourism. Basically,
I know.
They do that today.
This is something, and I said, and I will say this again, this is something we the people need to take in our own hands. And I again, you can come at me, you can imprison me, but the truth is the truth. You cannot be out there killing our children and raping our children, and we just let you go through the legal system. We wait for you to be found guilty or not. We know you're doing it. Our children have said you're doing it. May your God, blue-eyed God and Jesus, help you, because it's about time we, when Ubuntu, start dealing with these invaders in a different way, because they continue to invade and to abuse our community. So whatever that means to you, take the message I am sending without sending directly. Enough is enough.
Yep, yeah. I agree with that. Francisca, you want to say something to that?
No, I'm good. Oladele, you can say something.
Okay. How do we undo the mind control?
Undoing mind control is a journey. Attacking the systems that were used to commit cultural genocide is one way that I think might work. What are we teaching the children in schools? Can we allow them to speak their mother tongue without shaming them and seeming as if speaking English makes a person who's better than the other? Can we be truthful with the churches, speak truth fearlessly with the Catholic Church? I'm going after them myself too. I am Catholic. I was baptized. I've not unbaptized myself, but I am a Catholic that's going after the Catholics that have done injustice to our brothers and sisters. And I've always spoken. I was abused in high school by boys. When I went to the priest, he told me boys will be boys. And I'm going back to that high school to go and teach all the boys to say, boys will be responsible. Don't be entitled to girls' bodies or to women's bodies and listen to these people teach you to disrespect your source. In African culture, a woman is a portal.
Yeah.
A woman is sacred. We carry men in our bodies. When did they suddenly become more superior to women when they come from women? But these religions teach people that women are inferior. In Africa, if you really go to our roots in Africa, the mother, the woman, is revered.
But sis, what you just said there, and this is basically the misnomer in Africa at the moment, because obviously since we've accepted Christianity and Islam, it's basically turned stuff it's basically turned things upside down.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's a lot of people who are listening to this now saying, but a man's supposed to be above the woman. But I know in African spirituality, we're talking about Mahat, which is basically equilibrium, balance.
Yes.
How can you explain that? Because some people still don't get that, because with a lopsided religious indoctrination, they still don't get it, because people will still argue over that.
I cannot claim to be an expert in that field, but I've just been listening to people like Mama Kanyisele. I've been listening to people like Joshua Maponga about who a woman is. And as the matriarch, just from my experience of birthing a child, a son, I have one birth son and two daughters. Just that experience for me, it's a spiritual experience. It's something that a man cannot equal. You cannot talk about being equal to a woman because you don't carry a person for 9 months in your body. You don't go through the earth-shattering experience of labor. You don't get suckled from your breast. You don't nurture a human being to the extent that a mother does. So I do not comprehend how any man with brains in their head would talk about wanting to be equal with their source.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I speak as a matriarch, as a mother, and I was in Mother Behold Thy Son, I was telling my son, if you really want to be a happy man in this world, just know one thing: treat girls and women and all other human beings as equals. When you do that, you are likely going to be happy. And you have honored your mother. So it's not just about honoring me. Your proof that you honor me, I will see in how you treat other women and girls.
Absolutely. I love that. I love what you just said there.
Proof through action, right, Oladile?
Yeah, I love that because a lot of our men just can't comprehend. They don't get it. And I'll say this, guys. I've been with my wife for 34 years. And in those years, I've transformed my mind because I could see the balance. Because with myself and my wife right now, the way we deal with each other, there's an equilibrium, there's a balance in what we do. If one does not agree and the other don't agree, we don't do it. So in the balance, you can move mountains. And we are so potently powerful with the two of us coming together and agreeing together and move forward. And this is what a lot of men need to get to. If you haven't got to that and you're still, thinking you have to lord it over your wife, you're not there yet. You got a lot to learn. And
we need more men. The reason why we still have gender-based violence and we still have all these atrocities happening to women is because we do not have enough men who understand their role as protectors, who understand their role as coming from women, and therefore being depended upon to uphold human life, the value of human life. So you men, we need you. I have my husband here and I tell him we are so different. Our functions are so different. We are complementary in nature.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly. That right there.
If only our spirituality would take us to where we recognize that our assignments on this earth as male and female are different but complementary.
Yes, that's it.
If we have enough African men protecting the girls and women, we would have a happier society. But they lied to.
Yeah, sorry. And this is basically what this so-called religion has done to us. It's basically taking us away from that balance.
Yes.
That's what it's done. And in as much as we're trying to sugarcoat, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this, it's taking us away from who we're meant to be. Basically, the balance is just not there no more. And that's basically why you see Africa being messed up as it is right now. As Africans all over the world, we lost our equilibrium. We lost our mahat, the balance that we need. And it's so eccentric. It's so essential to what we're talking about Ubuntu here. Yeah.
Yes, and coming back to your question about how we undo mind control, it's really reflecting where we are as a people, but also as individuals. To say, where are we? And then being willing to do the inner work that will get us to that point where it's like second nature. When we are in the home, we are following our values, right? The way we make decisions, the way we govern, the way we relate with each other. If we're able to reflect and say, these are our values, but my actions are at variance with my values, which is an everyday thing for us in this capitalist context. That every day you are rattled by something, but it should go like this. Why? Because Ubuntu and capitalism and the rest of some of the religions are at variance with who we are. So are we willing to stop and examine and say, what does Ubuntu stand for? Are we willing to undo some of the habits that are self-serving, that make us want to win alone and create habits that make us want to win as a collective, or rather the mindset? So what is it that we must do? It's being aware of where we are, taking an unflinching moral inventory to say, Ubuntu says this, but I'm doing this. So what does it take for me to be aligned with Ubuntu? It's a mindset shift.
Mm.
So for me, I will market myself now. That's the work that I do to help people to become mentally fit, to be aware of all the saboteurs that sabotage our success, our relationships, our well-being. What are those things that make us remain angry, in victim mindset, not do what we're supposed to do, or see ourselves as very hyper rational or perfectionists? How do we move from those saboteurs to more of being led by Ubuntu, in where we are not led by emotions, but if we are led by emotions, it's positive emotions. So the bridge for me is doing the actual mental work. And how people do it, they can choose to do mental fitness, they can choose to do whatever other modalities are there, mindfulness. But the thing is, we ought to be doing something intentionally that helps us to see where we are, to delve a bit deeper into issues until we know the root cause, and to emerge with solutions.
And just so that everyone knows, the book, as you can all see there, the fourth image on the stage is Searching for Racial Equality, an African Woman's Urgent Call to be Anti-Racist. And I was going to say, as you were talking about emotion, what is usually seen as negative emotion is also useful, but used to do positive, right? So anger, and I have learned this through my journey. I was laughing with a friend the other day and saying, if you want to see my journey through anger, I don't even need to tell you all. Just go and watch Kumbukeni when we started last year in January, and Kumbukeni today. You'll see my journey with anger. So I can get angry, and I can let anger consume me and control me, but I can also get angry. This is the flip side. I can get angry,
Yes.
hone that anger, and use it as a reminder to guide me towards purpose, right? Use it
Yes.
as the thing that will let you not forget your purpose. That anger is
Yes.
very useful. That anger, and I've done things like this intentionally, where I went to places that would spark that anger when it was going away, because you get comfortable. You go, the summer, the sun, the weather is beautiful, you're going to the beach, you're going for barbecues, you're enjoying music with friends, you get comfortable. You forget that your ancestors have paid a price and things are not okay yet. So in moments like those, I'll get in my car, I'll drive. I drove 18 hours to Montgomery, Alabama, to the lynching museum and the lynching memorial, to sit with my ancestors, our ancestors there, to be reminded. So I do things like that to be reminded, because we are not there yet. And because we live in a world that is very confusing. And if you get immersed in it, you will forget. But we cannot forget, because our healing has not come. So we can't afford to forget. And I intentionally immerse myself in experiences that will spark that anger and keep it firing, so that it can drive me towards purpose. The other question I was going to ask, and it's interesting, my sister, as you talk about this, and we are here to speak honesty.
Yes.
And I am guided to a topic that is very sensitive today, and I'm talking about the LGBTQ plus issue. I'm not going to delve too much into it. I'm just going to say, anything that has no balance is not good for humanity. And this is where we are with the LGBTQ plus situation. There's imbalance. There's almost like a takeover of the situation that is causing havoc in other areas. And as we speak about the role of the woman, the role of the man, and the importance of these two entities in life and in survival of humanity and in our being, the more you realize that we have to be attentive, we have to pay attention, and not shy away from speaking about things that may take us away from that. So I have no hate for brothers and sisters who have different sexual affiliations. What I am starting to resent is the takeover, the imbalance that is being created in society because of it. And Western culture is very good at this. They're very good at observing and seeing a vulnerability in humanity that can allow them to continue their control and exploiting it. And I feel that that's what LGBTQI plus is being used for. The way to see clarity in this is when you're in those communities, you will see that within those communities, there's racism against Black people. And you ask yourself, LGBTQ plus people, why do you want me to empathize with you if you don't empathize with my people? So that's a conversation out of this that I want us to actually sit with. And especially those in the community, I want you to sit with you. If you are LGBTQI plus and you're white and you've never empathized with Black people, you've never understood what BLM, Black Lives Matter is, you've never spoken up against Black injustice against African people, ask yourself, why should African people stand for you? Why should African nations stand for you? So something we need to sit with. My sister, I don't know if you want to delve into that. I didn't ask you because I don't want, this is a choice that you have to make yourself, whether you want to delve into that subject, just because it's such a like people now with the all counseling and all that, it's such a sensitive subject. So you decide whether you want to speak on it or not.
So I don't shy away from being in my truth. What I noticed is when I was working for the not-for-profit sector in Zimbabwe, there is funding that came with conditionalities. We will give you this funding if you focus on this. I worked for a very independent little NGO guided by the principles of Paulo Freire. If you are going to develop people, you ought to listen to what the generative themes are. What do people feel strongly about? So we had issues with people coming with their money and telling us what to do, what problems to prioritize in a country where poverty is at very high proportions. So we struggled with that as Africans, and also that we were not closing the door on people that identify differently sexually. If we had them in our trainings and they showed us that they needed support, we did support them. So it's not like we are insensitive to that community. But what is worrisome is somebody coming with an agenda, with money in their hands, and making it a condition for funding. What this did in Zimbabwe was actually turn people who were straight to pretend to be in that community because there was money. So I know I don't have statistics, but I do know that it is true. Personally, as a mother, if one of my children identified as such, I would love them unconditionally, even though I may find it hard to understand. Personally, as a grandmother, I don't want nobody near my grandchildren teaching them that curriculum. If they emerge to be that, I will accept them. I will love them. What I refuse as a mother and a matriarch is for someone to start indoctrinating my children and grandchildren and getting them to think and feel in ways, because these things are taught. There is social learning theory.
Yeah, social engineering.
Yes. So that is my standpoint, and I'm unapologetic about it. And I come from a place of unconditional love, unconditional positive regard.
It's a very fine line. I agree. It's a very, very fine line. And we have, while holding on to our humanity, we still, because we cannot allow ourselves to be taken to a place where we have no structure. Oladile.
Yes.
Okay. We've talked about Ubuntu. You've said it in what you're saying, that we are moving ourselves away from that Ubuntu to link it to capitalism, which is taking us away from who we're meant to be and who we are. How do we get Ubuntu back? devoid, because it's a fine line. We talk about capitalism, but capitalism is basically taking us away from who we are. It's a system that's loaded upon us, because Ubuntu means I am because you are because I am. Basically, nobody in Africa in those days, and people listening, we never lacked nothing. We had all we wanted. When capitalism was introduced, and that's basically where the have and have not started, and that's where the that's where the lack began, because everybody's trying to be better than the other. So there's a competition started. So Ubuntu means we are communal beings, collective communal beings. How do we get back to that? Because this is me assessing, basically doing what we do, all these programs. I'm just observing that the more we become trying to be capitalist as Africans, the more there's more poverty in Africa.
Yes.
There's more poverty because capitalism leads to more poverty. People don't understand that. So how do we get back to what our ancestors, what our creator meant for Africa?
And just to complete that question, or to add to it, it's the exploitation nature, and it's inherent of capitalism to exploit, right? So speak to it, our sister, please.
Okay, so the way we do our economics needs to change, right? Because we have the economy, people serving the economy under capitalism. People work 3, 4, 5 jobs to serve the economy.
It's crazy.
Right? The economy should be serving the people. How that will happen, I don't have a solution today, but I just do know that we have to get to a point where the economy serves the people. The African economy, we have resources. I don't even need to explain. We have the riches that have powered the world over years. The question becomes, how come we are not rich? Who is partaking of Africa's richness? What should we be doing as Africans? For me, if you ask me, the way we make decisions about who owns and who does what with our resources is entirely in our hands. My brother Oladele shared a video on LinkedIn about Mali. There's a general that took all the wealth of people who got it through ill-gotten means and sold all the assets. And now Mali has no debt. It's drastic measures. But when you look at how our African fathers and grandfathers in power right now, or if anyone is in their 80s, they are my father's age. So most of them are that old. If you see the way they are governing Africa, it tells you that we need to change leadership and we need to change decisions. This might actually get me in trouble back home, but it's true. So it's how we make decisions as Africans. Who are we giving our resources to? You get construction projects given to China, given to outsiders. Do we not have African engineers who can come together and form a formidable engineering organization and build the bridges and the roads of their own country?
This is what I keep saying.
So you asked me a question, how do we return to Ubuntu? We organize ourselves. We have everything that we need as Africans.
Yes.
We just need the heart of Ubuntu to come back to us. I don't know how, because every individual has to be doing their part. And they have to want to go back to Ubuntu. You can't force them. But I'm hoping that we are all wired to be purposeful, to reach our true potential. And as Africans, don't tell me that our true potential will be realized when we follow the capitalist model.
Imagine that.
I don't believe so.
Thank you.
Our purpose will be full and complete when we have satisfied what we are supposed to do as African children. And that should align with who we are, where everyone wins. Without that, we are not yet there.
Yeah.
So decisions, governance, relationships, those are the three things that we should be looking at. How are we making decisions? How is our governance? What role is each one of us playing in the revival of Ubuntu? For me, I'm actually grateful that I'm on this platform, because it's no point speaking that I subscribe to Ubuntu, I'm Pan-African, when your friends or your connections do not show what your values are. So the one thing that we can do as individuals, if we want to return to Ubuntu, associate with Oladele, associate with Nduku, associate with Mary Waweru, associate with Shaila Sima, Dube. These are the people that are speaking this language and who are passionate about Africa. There are many more, but I'm saying we have to walk the talk, or align with my husband, Sotemba Chuma. He really loves Africa. So in my household, actually, that's the other thing. What do you get to discuss in your household? We're so passionate about Africa. My husband says we should create platforms for Africa where we have our own media, because one day in this world, we'll just get unplugged from Facebook, unplugged from LinkedIn, unplugged from, what will we have? What is ours?
Well, you have connected with the right people, because we can guide you.
We have something going on, so don't worry, man. We're there. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I think it's a choice. It's a personal choice that we have to make to return to Ubuntu. But it's such a beautiful value system. It's such a beautiful way of being. I think any person who's on this earth looking for purpose, whether they are African or not, if they follow the values of Ubuntu, they are likely to die happy that they did something in life.
I love that. That's
and
awesome.
I like that too, Oladile, because it is in our best interest for everyone else outside of Wana Ubuntu to follow the principles of Ubuntu for the survival of all, right? So whether you're Wana Ubuntu or not, you can follow the principles, I don't know if you call them tenets of Ubuntu.
Yes.
You can follow them. You don't have, but just don't come to our motherland claiming to be Amana Ubuntu and wanting governance and special privilege. That's where we draw the line.
But one thing I've also noticed, Nduku, is that I live on the land of indigenous people. And I'm always smiling because their indigenous values, like what we call Inuit, Hauyima Yatukangit, is the same as Ubuntu, because they are
100%.
indigenous people. They are connected to the land.
Hey.
And so we speak about Ubuntu here. They talk about their Inuit societal values, which is Inuit Hauyima Yatukangit. So as humanity, I want to go back to the fact that we are bound by our humanity, and spirituality is not limited to religion. Spirituality is just about one value: unconditional love.
I'm glad you brought that up, my sister, because Oladele, and we can go to the question that we ask, and then our sister can play Mbira Zangu. But I'm glad you brought that, because I have said this to my brothers and sisters within the United States, the descendants of enslaved Africans in this criminal space, that it is essential to reconnect with the indigenous peoples of these lands, especially if you're looking to acquire land. Do not do it without consulting them. This is land that was taken from them, forcefully taken from them, and horrible things were done to them. So I think we are best served, especially when we're in these spaces, to reconnect with those indigenous peoples and work with them. To reconnect with them and walk side by side as we seek healing for both our peoples. So do not be a Black person, because you're going to be just like the Jews. And yes, I am not one who shies from talking about the bad behavior of Jews in Israel who are attacking Palestine. Instead of learning from what was done to you and doing good moving forward, you clearly have forgotten what was done to you as far as what you're doing to others. So We Black people cannot be that. We cannot bring maafa that was brought to us and to indigenous people by taking their land, which was stolen from them, without consulting them. So I think it's a high time we reconnect with them, especially those of us who cannot reconnect back to where we come from on the motherland. If we're going to settle here, let's do it in alliance with the indigenous peoples. Oladile.
I agree. All right, my sister. This is a tradition we have on this broadcast. We basically have questions from the last guest. So we ask you, and then I'm going to ask you a question for our next guest, if you don't mind. So the question is, what brings you the greatest happiness in life? And how can you use this to make the future of the generations to come the best?
Can you read it again, please?
What brings you the greatest happiness in life? And how can you use this to help the future generations to come?
I think for me, what brings me the greatest happiness is being in my truth and doing the things that I know will leave a legacy behind. Serving my people. And every Saturday and Sunday, I actually serve my people. Outside my day job, that's when I do my coaching. Most of it, for those that can pay, I give them for free. Those that can pay me, I let them pay me. And the joy of watching a human being jettison the undesired parts of themselves, discover the inner true being, and then watching them blossom. I've had the privilege to be doing that since 2006 when I started facilitating workshops and doing leadership development workshops. Now I do that as a coach. Just before I came to this session, I was serving my people. I told you I'll be
you
like,
told me. Yeah, you told me. That. Yeah.
Because I made a commitment. I journeyed with them for 13 weeks and they posted phenomenal results. Some of them were about to be fired in their jobs. Now they don't care. They have found gifts in being fired. Some of them were afraid that they're going to lose their marriages. Now they can relate better to their husbands. So the work that I do, especially outside my day job, just to see another human being free their minds, unlock their potential, while being teachable and coachable, it gives me joy. So in what I would say to the next person is find that thing that you're good at doing, that aligns with your purpose, that makes you happy, such that you don't feel like it's an effort. I go there to be myself and I don't feel like I'm working. And come Monday, I'm like, the weekend was great. What did I do? I was coaching for the most time. How was I feeling? Happy. So do the things that you know you were put on this earth to do. I want to quote my father in my dream. My father is 32 years gone, 31, we're in 2024, 31 years gone this year. My father, when I'm in trouble, he comes to my dreams. So when I was writing this book, I wanted to bail out from writing this book. But you know, when something is in your belly and you know you should do it. So it's like, who am I? Martin Luther King is the one person for civil rights. So now suddenly, Francisca, you want to put yourself there. So I had all the excuses not to write this book. And then I started having earache. And so I began to stop, not to want to write. And then I dreamt of my father and he said to me, Francisca. He says, Francisca, in full. I'm like, oh, when your father calls you in full, you're in trouble. So he says, only fear death when you have not done the things that you are meant to do. Yeah. So he said, don't fear death. Only fear death if you know you have not done what you are meant to do.
That speaks to me. That's the only thing I'm scared of.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I'm scared of. That speaks to me.
That's how to be happy. do what you are meant to do. Be true to yourself.
Before our sister Mandeya goes ahead and asks her question, I'm going to also echo her words before. It is important to get therapy, and therapy comes in different forms. That was my journey as well. What I've been through in the last 4 years, I don't know if I would have gone through it the same way I did, as peacefully, or as I would have maintained my sanity without the therapy. I was losing my sanity literally in many, many ways. So, and sanity, like I said, comes in different forms. There's the traditional, the one that is norm today. You get a therapist, you pay them, but you hear Sister Mandeya talking about she does coaching, which is essentially therapy, right? And she's spoken to people who've changed there, who've gotten better understanding of how to move forward. Therapy can come in the form of connecting with someone who's more spiritually grounded, right? For example, our Mama Kanyisiles, and sitting with them and connecting with them through culture. Like our sister says, reconnecting to your culture is therapy. I also use working out, music. Those are things that are therapeutic, but we don't consider them that, but they bring a lot of healing. Growing my plants was another one. Gardening, that was another one. Reconnecting with the earth. So please do not sit in misery and give up and succumb to that pull to take away life, to end life, so that you, in order to end the suffering, right? You can still continue life, and you can figure out a way to get through and face the challenges that you encounter. Oladele.
Thank you. Sister Mandeya, can you give us a question for our next guest, please? What do you feel you want to ask our next guest?
Oh. What would you do if you knew you would not fail?
Ooh. Okay, that's what would you do if you know you can't fail? Okay.
Yes.
I think this question should go out to everybody, not just our next guest. If you're watching this podcast today, what would you do if you know you were not going to fail? What would you do? I think I'm going to post that question out there. Please give us some feedback. It's a coaching
question.
It's a coaching. So please, if you got anything to say about this, give us some feedbacks. Let's read this later on.
And we're going to have comments on this live record, like the recording. Please comment in the recordings. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah. So what would you do if you know that you cannot fail? That's a very, very potent question, please. Okay. I'm looking forward to the feedbacks on this one, guys. Okay.
My sister, thank you so much for joining us, because I actually would like, and Oladile, for the Mbira to be the last exit, right? But thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for connecting with us, because we have connected in this experience, and continue your journey. And we are here to be your extended, I don't want to call it family.
We're connected.
Ubuntu community when you need us.
I basically had an interview with a husband before, so that's basically how. You know, the funny thing is, like, I had an interview with a husband. He reached out to me. I did not know that they're married. And then I saw the surname. I'm thinking, yeah. And then I saw the photo. I think, oh yeah, I know this. I know these people. So I can see how these connections, how the spiritual connections are.
Yes.
I look forward to meeting him.
Yeah.
Okay, sister, play us out, please.
I have to, okay. Mbira dzinorapa kanemi, vadikani, mbira dzinorapa, ichokwadi, mbira dzinorapa kanemi, vadikani, mbira dzinorapa, ichokwadi, pandinofara ndoridza mbira, pandinorwadziwa ndoridza mbira, pandinotsamwa ndoridza mbira, pandinosuwa, pandinofara ndoridza mbira, pandinorwadziwa ndoridza mbira, pandinotsamwa ndoridza mbira, pandinosuwa. Ndipe mbira dzangu ndiridze, ndipe mbira dzangu rufaro ruwande, ndipe mbira dzangu ndiridze, dzangu hasha serere, ndipe mbira dzangu ndiridze, ndipe mbira dzangu maronda apore, kanyonga ndoridza mbira, ndare ndoridza mbira, jari mbira dzinorapa, kanyonga ndare jari mbira dzinorapa, mbira dzangu ndiridze chisikana, mbira dzangu chekwa Mandeya, mbira dzangu ndiridze chisokoro, mbira dzangu chekwa Chavhanga, mbira dzangu ndiridze, mbira dzangu oiyere yere, mbira dzangu ndiridze nene, mbira dzangu dinde 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 dinde.